Chapter 23 Last Trip Abroad 1896. No longer an exile, Rizal had a pleasant trip from Dapitan to Manila, with delightful stopovers in Dumaguete, Cebu, Iloilo, Capiz, and Romblon. He missed the regular steamer Isla de Luzon and was kept as a guest on board the Spanish cruiser Castilla. Meanwhile, on August 26, 1896, Andres Bonifacio and the Katipunan raised the cry of revolution in the hills of Balintawak, a few miles north of Manila. Rizal left for Spain on steamer Isla de Panay on September 3, 1896, worried. It was his last trip abroad. Dapitan to Manila. Leaving Dapitan at midnight July 31, 1896, the España with Rizal and party on board sailed northward at dawn. The next day, it anchored at Dumaguete, capital of Negros Oriental. Rizal described Dumaguete in his diary as spreads out on the beach. There are big houses, some with galvanized iron roofing. Outstanding are the houses of a lady whose name I have forgotten, which is occupied by the government, and another one just begun with many evil posts. While in Dumaguete, Rizal visited friends and former classmate Herrero Rigador, who was the judge of the province. He also visited another friends, including Pericat and Rufina families. And in the afternoon, he operated on the Spanish captain of the Guardia Civil. España left Dumaguete at 1 p.m. and reached Cebu on the following morning. Cebu, he wrote in his diary, I did 2 operations of stribotomy, 1 operation in the ears and another on 2 more. In the morning, Rizal left Cebu going to Iloilo. The voyage was fine, he wrote. At the right, we saw Mactan, an island famous for what happened to Magellan. The whole afternoon was magnificent. We saw many islands along our way. The next day in the morning, we entered Iloilo. And he commented, the church is pretty outside, and the interior is not bad, considering that it had been painted by a lad. The paintings are mostly copies of biblical scenes by Gustave Doré. From Iloilo, Rizal's ship sailed to Capiz. After a brief stopover, it proceeded towards Manila via Romblon. Rizal misses ship going to Spain. The España arrived in Manila Bay early in the morning of Thursday, August 6, 1896. Unfortunately, Rizal was not able to catch the mail ship Isla de Luzon for Spain. Near midnight, same day, August 6, Rizal was transferred to the Spanish cruiser Castilla, ordered of Governor General Ramon Blanco, and he was accommodated by a gallant Captain Enrique Santalo, who told him that he was not a prisoner but a guest detained on board. Rizal stayed on the cruiser for about a month, from August 6 to September 2, 1896, pending the availability of Spanish-bound steamer. Outbreak of the Philippine Revolution. While Rizal was patiently waiting on the cruiser Castilla to the next steamer to take him to Spain, portentous event occurred, presaging the downfall of Spanish power in Asia. Evening, August 19, 1896, the Katipunan plot to overthrow Spanish rule by means of revolution was discovered by Fray Mariano Gil, Agustinian Cora of Tondo, which leads Spanish officials to a vindictive retaliation against Filipino patriots. The tumult produced by the discovery of Katipunan plot was aggravated by the cry of Balintawak, which was raised by Bonifacio and his valiant Katipuneros on August 26, 1896. August 30, the revolutionists led by Bonifacio and Jacinto attacked San Juan. Later in the afternoon, Governor General Blanco proclaimed a state of war in the first 8 provinces, Manila, Bulacan, Cavite, Batangas, Laguna, Pampanga, Nueva Ecija, and Tarlac, for raising arms against Spain. Rizal was worried by 2 reasons. First is the violent revolution which he sincerely believed to be premature and would only cause much suffering and terrible loss of human lives and property. And second, it would arouse Spanish vengeance against all Filipino patriots. Departure for Spain. On August 30, 1896, the day when the state of war was proclaimed in 8 provinces, Rizal received from Governor General Blanco 2 letters of introduction for the Minister of War and Minister of Colonies, with covering letter which absolved him from all the blame of the raging revolution. And the other letter was addressed to General Marcelo D. Azcárraga, Minister of War. And on September 2, 1896, the day before his departure for Spain, Rizal, on board the Castilla, wrote to his mother. The same day at night, Rizal was transferred to steamer Isla de Panay, which was sailing for Barcelona, Spain. With his fellow passengers on board, Don Pedro Rojas, a rich Manila Creole industrialist and his friend, and with his son Periquen, in Singapore. The Isla de Panay arrived at Singapore in the evening of September 7, and according to Rizal's diary, Singapore has changed much since he saw it the first time in 1882. While Don Pedro with his son disembarked at Singapore, he advised Rizal to stay behind. Don Manuel Camos, a Filipino resident in Singapore, also urged him to stay in Singapore, but he both turned down those advices because of what he promised to Governor General Blanco. Victim of Spanish duplicity. By refusing to break his word of honor in Singapore, Rizal sealed his own doom. Rizal was a hero and considered a genius, but one of his greatest mistakes was to believe that Governor General Blanco was a man of honor and a friend, because he allowed him to go as a free man to Spain to become a physician surgeon of the Spanish army in Cuba, where a bloody revolution was raging, and gave him 2 nice letters of introduction addressed to the Spanish Minister of War and the colonies. Rizal was unaware that since his departure from Manila Bay on his way to Spain, Blanco and the Minister of War and the colonies were exchanging coded telegrams and confidential messages for his arrest upon reaching Barcelona, and that he was the party and was being secretly kept under surveillance. Rizal arrested before reaching Barcelona. The Isla de Panay with Rizal on board left Singapore. September 8. Unaware of the Spanish duplicity, particularly Governor General Blanco's infernal deceit, he happily continued the voyage towards Barcelona. On September 25, he saw a steamer Isla de Luzon leaving the Suez Canal, crammed with Spanish troops. 2 days later, he heard from the passengers that a telegram arrived from Manila, reporting the execution of Francisco Rojas, Renato, and Osorio. On September 28, a passenger told Rizal the bad news that he would be arrested by the order of Governor General Blanco. Shocked by the alarming news, Rizal belatedly realized that he was duped by the unscrupulous Spanish officials, particularly the slay Governor General Blanco. With an agonizing heart, he immediately wrote a letter to his best friend, Blumentritt, unburdening his disgust and bitterness as follows. But there was nothing official yet about his impending arrest, and still merely a shipboard gossip. On September 29, Rizal wrote in his travel diary, "There are people on board who do nothing but slander me and invent fanciful stories about me. I'm going to become a legendary personage." Following day, September 30, he was officially notified by the Captain Alemany that he should stay in his cabin until further orders from Manila. He graciously complied with the captain's directive. Arrival in Barcelona as a prisoner. About 6:25 p.m., September 30, the steamer anchored at Malta. Being confined to his cabin, Rizal was not able to visit the famous island fortress of the Christian Crusaders, and only wrote in his travel diary what he saw through a tiny window. On October 3, at 10 o'clock in the morning, the island de Panay arrived in Barcelona, with Rizal as a prisoner on board. The trip from Manila to Barcelona lasted exactly 30 days. He was kept under heavy guard in his cabin for 3 days. His jailer was no longer the ship captain, but the military commander of Barcelona, who happened to be General Euligio Despojo, the same one who ordered his banishment to the Pitan in July 1892. It was one of those coincidences in the lives of men that make history stranger than fiction. Second day in Barcelona, Rizal, although held incommunicado in his cabin, noticed the city's celebration of the feast of Saint Francis of Assisi. He recorded it in his diary as follows: At 6 in the morning, many cannon shots awakened us. It seemed that they are in honor of the feast of Saint Francis of Assisi. At 12 o'clock, I counted as many as 31 cannon shots. At 6, there were again as many. At night, there was a concert in the dining room which can be heard from my cabin. At 3 a.m. on October 6, Rizal was awakened by the guards and escorted to the grim of infamous prison fortress named Hutch. He spent the whole morning in the cell. About 2 in the afternoon, he was taken out of prison by the guards and brought to the headquarters of General Despojo. In an interview which lasted quarter of an hour, the brusque general told Rizal that he would be shipped back to Manila on board the transport ship Colon, which was leaving that evening. After the interview, Rizal was taken aboard the Colon, which was full of soldiers and officers and their families. At 8 p.m. October 6, the ship left Barcelona with Rizal on board.